All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're conducting a biochemical audit of what is literally one of the most normalized mass medication programs on the planet, municipal water fluoridation. Now, we aren't looking at your standard public health brochures today. Instead, we're unpacking a highly provocative source text known as the Gnostic Indictment. This document completely upends everything we've been told about tap water, framing it not as a preventative medicine, but as a highly sophisticated mechanism of control. So, bypassing the usual introductions, we're jumping straight down the rabbit hole to explore the core premise of this text. The source material asks a pretty staggering question. What if mass medication is actually an intentional malware injection into our biological hardware? You see, the author argues that the human body isn't just, a machine made of meat. It is a divine bio-electric receiver, and they claim certain chemicals introduced into our environment are explicitly designed to jam that signal, keeping us entirely disconnected and docile. To really grasp this perspective, let's look at the juxtaposition. On one hand, you have the official narrative we all grew up with: water fluoridation is a benevolent public health initiative meant to protect children's teeth, right? Well, on the other hand, the Gnostic Indictment presents a radically different view. It describes a covert chemical warfare operation, and the target? It absolutely isn't your teeth. It's the physical hardware of your spiritual perception. Part 1. The Divine Hardware. Anatomy of the Pineal Gland. Throughout esoteric history, you've probably heard this referred to as our third eye. But physically speaking, the pineal gland is a tiny, pinecone-shaped endocrine gland sitting at the exact geometric center of your brain. Now here's the absolutely crucial physiological detail that the text highlights. Unlike the rest of your brain tissue, the pineal gland is uniquely unprotected by the blood-brain barrier. Because it lacks that vital shield, it's incredibly vulnerable to environmental toxins and heavy chemical accumulation straight from your bloodstream. And here's where it gets wild. It isn't just mushy, soft tissue in there. Back in the 1990s, scientists discovered that the adult pineal gland is actually packed with these piezoelectric calcite microcrystals. We're talking about tiny crystalline structures, just 2 to 20 micrometers across. Because they're piezoelectric, they act as literal transducers. That means they can convert mechanical stress into electrical fields, and they physically resonate when exposed to external electromagnetic frequencies. The text argues this literally makes the gland a biological radio. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful quote straight from the source. The human pineal gland is a bio-crystalline radio, a piece of biological hardware, a divine instrument waiting for a signal. The author is basically describing this hardware as a transceiver, one that is specifically tuned to receive higher consciousness and interdimensional frequencies right out of the quantum field. In this framework, your brain doesn't actually generate consciousness, it acts more like a tuning dial, and the pineal gland is the core antenna locking onto the signal of the universe. Section 2. The Exploit, the Calcification Protocol. So how exactly is this divine hardware attacked? Well, the text argues that the fluoride intentionally dripped into our water supply is not the naturally occurring mineral element fluorine at all. Instead, municipalities are largely using something called hydrofluorosilicic acid. The text describes this as a highly toxic, completely unpurified industrial waste product that's actually captured in the pollution scrubbers of the aluminum and fertilizer industries. The indictment claims that rather than paying billions to dispose of this toxic waste legally, corporations successfully lobby the government to just run it through the public water supply. Let's break down this chemical reaction step by step, exactly as the source lays it out. Step 1. You ingest the fluoride via municipal tap water and it enters your bloodstream. Step 2. Because the pineal gland lacks that blood-brain barrier we talked about, the fluoride rushes right in. And those fluoride ions are highly electromagnetically attracted to the dense calcium found in those piezoelectromagnetic microcrystals. Step 3. The fluoride aggressively bonds with the calcite to form a heavy hydroxyapatite crust. Essentially, the fluoride physically hardens the gland, literally turning it into bone. The text vividly summarizes the terrifying result of this protocol with a really stark claim. It turns the highly sensitive, crystalline, piezoelectric radio transceiver at the geometric center of the brain into a useless, calcified rock. According to the source material, this chemical attack systematically blinds the third eye. It physically severs the human connection to the quantum field by encasing your biological antenna in a thick layer of hardened, inert minerals. And as you might expect, this calcification allegedly triggers some massive collateral damage across your entire biological system. Because the pineal gland is the master regulator of your sleep-wake cycle, calcifying it totally disrupts your internal clock. It suppresses your production of melatonin, which the text notes isn't just a sleep aid, but actually a powerful neuroprotective antioxidant. Even more provocatively, the text claims this calcification totally shuts down the gland's endogenous production of DMT, often called the spirit molecule, crippling what the author refers to as our built-in launchpad for the dream state. Part 3. The hackers, tracing the historical origins. So if this really is an intentional exploit, we have to ask, who actually deployed it? The text lays out a historical timeline to answer just that. It notes that back in the 1940s, Manhattan Project scientists urgently needed a way to dispose of the massive amounts of toxic fluoride waste generated by uranium enrichment. And wouldn't you know it, that conveniently aligns perfectly with the mass implementation of water fluoridation in the US. Moving into the 1950s, the text claims early MKUltra psychiatrists began championing fluoridation, realizing that a calcified population is a docile, spiritually disconnected, and much more easily managed workforce. Finally, it points to the 1990s research of Dr. Jennifer Luke, who proved scientifically that the pineal gland is in fact the primary site of fluoride accumulation in the human body. Ultimately, the source text concludes its forensic audit with this uncompromising, chilling verdict. It is a chemical lobotomy designed to permanently sever the individual's Gnostic connection to the field. Its goal is to blind the third eye, ensuring the prisoners can never see the stars. The author's view here is abundantly clear. They don't see this as an accidental failure of public health. To them, it's a calculated, deeply intentional operation designed to keep human consciousness imprisoned in a highly manageable state. To wrap up our explainer today, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought drawn directly from the source material regarding your biological sovereignty. If the pineal gland truly is your biological hardware's root access antenna, and it is actively being jammed, well, who is really controlling the signal you receive? The Gnostic Indictment really forces us to look at our biology, our environment, and our daily tap water through a radically different lens. It's a fascinating, if somewhat unsettling, framework to explore. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep questioning the narrative.